Hello, Phil. You'll forgive me if I don't stand on ceremony and address you by the term doctor, because in my eyes, not only have you not earned that title, you have not earned the title of human being and or scientist, and this video will be nothing more than me eviscerating you for this purpose. Now, Phil, first of all, let's get something out of the way immediately. Your appeals to free speech and ideas of freedom mean nothing to me for one particular reason. Free speech is protected under the U.S. Constitution and is described, as will be shown in the low bar in terms of the link. It does not apply to private citizens or citizens using a particular media on, or medium, so to speak, on the internet. In other words, someone operating their own private Twitter account is no more able to defend their heinous actions through the ideas of free speech than, say, somebody who would to go into a building and shout fire and say it was my right to say it. No, that's not how this works, Phil, and I don't know how many more times we're going to have to tell you this. For a PhD, you seem like you're pretty fucking stupid, because we have been telling you this over and over again. So I will say this once again, Phil. Private citizens operating within the terms of service of any site are allowed to decide what content goes on their feeds, goes into their sites, goes up on their pages. That is their right as long as they are following terms of service. When you violate terms of service, you can be, by these private companies, kicked off, censored, shut down, and or ejected from the conversation. I don't understand how you don't understand this concept other than the fact that you're deliberately doing it on purpose. So let's just lay everything out on the table here, Phil, okay? Because I'm not going to humor your miserable little ass at this point. I'm kind of pissed off. I'm pissed off for a lot of different reasons, two in particular, and they have to do with two individuals that I know. And I'm not even going to pretend not to be hostile here. I am hostile, and I am spoiling for a fucking fight. Okay, Phil? And you've done made me mad. So I'm going to unload on your dumb ass. And although it will do no good, it will make me feel better, and hopefully it'll entertain some people when I do it. So, when you accuse a rape survivor of having not been raped, you have become ipso facto a rape apologist. You are simply the same as any low-class male supremacist or MRA who goes around declaring that no cases of rape are legitimate. You deny their experience, you deny the legitimacy of what has happened to them, and you refuse to accept the responsibility that goes with it. In other words, if you make that kind of a stupid statement, people are going to call you on it, Phil. Now, I do realize that a ping monkey like yourself is used to a fair amount of laissez-faire attitude in a lab where nobody really gives a shit what you're doing as long as you're running the experiment that the guy who hired you told you to do, because for some bizarre reason you are now in your postdoctorate for many years now, and you're not operating in a private sector, you're not a tenured professor, and you're not teaching any place. You bounce around from village to dell without any permanent residence. Where are you now? Prague? They finally just sent you to Eastern Europe and hope a fucking vampire kills you, apparently, because nobody else wants to deal with your ass. And it's hardly the only time I've heard this, Phil. I have heard from multiple sources now that you are not only just a shitty human being, you are a shitty scientist, and that's why you're stuck running other people's experiments instead of actually doing something in your own lab, teaching your own students, doing something worthwhile. So, Phil, if anybody's going to sit here and be able to accuse you of being a shitty human being, it's the people that see this behavior from you, okay? So, let's be clear here. When you deny, invalidate, and completely erase the experience of one rape victim, you're doing it to every rape victim, male or female. And you're doing it because apparently for you, the idea of you being able to throw a man-child fit on various forms of entertainment venue throughout the internet is more important than the integrity, dignity, and sanctity of the stories of these people and how they happen and where they happen and why they happen, and of their experience, the validation of that experience, the belief of that experience, the fact that it was basically a fact, Phil, a scientifically established fact in most cases, through the agency of law enforcement and the predictive powers therein. So you sit here and complain bitterly about people basically calling you an idiot when you say something that is obviously what an idiot would say, especially about someone else's experience when you don't have that experience, and also you have no evidence to suggest that what happened didn't happen. This is actually a logical fallacy, Bubbles. I'm sorry, and you commit these constantly. Ad populum, straw man, tu quoque, you run the gambit. Now, I do understand that for someone like you, philosophy is kind of like asking you to read some philosophy or to actually look into the things you're discussing before you're discussing is a really difficult thing for you. Obviously, you don't have the stones or the mental acuity or the testicular fortitude to pick up a book and read about the subjects that you read about constantly, or rather, I should say, you talk about constantly, and completely screw up. For instance, sexual dimorphism. You screw this up all the time. Sexual dimorphism has nothing to do with the mental faculties of human beings, which are largely similar to one another. So, when you say something to the effect of, oh, well, women and men choose different roles in life because of sexual dimorphism, you're basically saying because one is bigger than the other, that's why they choose their role. That's what you're saying. It's based on no science, by the way. There's absolutely zero science that supports your conclusion. Plenty of science, especially neuroscience, that supports in the other direction, but there's no science to suggest that. So, when we call you out for being a douchebag on that, you become indignant. Somebody splices your picture onto pictures of porn, you become indignant. Suddenly it's a personal insult for you. What are you, fucking 5? Seriously. How old are you now? What, 50, 60? 70 maybe? I don't know. I can't tell. Because if I listen to your speech and the way you act, you seem like you're only 2, 3, 4, 5 years old maybe. I'm leaning more towards 2 because you throw tantrums like a 2-year-old. My 2-year-old niece is not as bad as you, so I don't understand this. I really don't. You seem to think that you are a special snowflake in the world of the internet. Now, I do realize when you have an army of sycophants talking to you constantly, telling you how wonderful you are, how you're the sole voice of reason and enlightenment, and you're the only thing leading us through the darkness, yeah, you can start to get a little bit of an ego out of that. You can start to have people tell you shit that they shouldn't. But you should have the self-reflective ability to understand that 1, sycophancy is the worst kind of flattery, and 2, you should understand your place in the universe also. One tiny speck in the colossal size of the universe. You seem to ignore that. You seem to completely disregard that. You are basically a nobody. And trust me, Thunderfoot, when I tell you this, Phil, celebrity is just obscurity biding its time. And fortunately, at some point, you will become just as obscure as all the others that have come before you. Now, why do people continue to humor you? I don't know. Why you have managed to convince so many people of your superior intellect when you're kind of a dullard, I don't understand that. Other than the standards have been set so low that anybody who comes along out of the desert waving a staff and declaring, I am the man who will lead you to the promised land, is immediately followed, because that's basically what I see on the internet. That's basically what I see on YouTube. Lost souls who don't know what the fuck they're doing or talking about or understand anything trying to attach on to you. And when they do, you come along for the ride, of course, and they come along for the ride, and they offer you up with this kind of almost religious adoration that you have not earned or deserve. You certainly haven't earned it through your videos and through your talk of science because, as I've said before and I will say again, you're a pretty shitty scientist. Even your whole series on why people laugh at creationists to me is rather amateurish and high schoolish. And that's because I actually am studying in a science myself, so you can't pull the wool over my eyes like you do most of your subscribers. And the really hilarious thing to me about this also, Phil, is that especially when it comes to female people who criticize you, your special venom seems to be reserved for them in particular. I don't know if you're a misogynist. I don't know if you're just a sexist for sure. I don't know how much of what you do is to just pump up your frickin' PayPal account or your Patreon or whatever it is. I can't tell that because I can't read minds. But I can tell the result. It's the same as if that is what you believe. When I see you do something like sick your followers on a young woman who basically dared to do the unthinkable and criticize something that you said because it was fucking stupid, might I add, or when you decide to finagle your way back into an email list that you were kicked out of solely for the purpose of trying to discredit people who pissed you off, when you do these kinds of things, when you ally yourself with people like Paul Elam and Gamergate and the other miserable, terrible people that you now have in your ranks, Justicar, yourself, Dawkins, all these freaking clowns who seem to be obsessed with this idea that their superior intellects are the only ones that should be listened to, and anybody who steps out of line is going to be attacked. So what do? You send your army of flying monkeys after somebody. You've done this over and over again. Now you're going after somebody else I know. You've already done this to one other person that I know. And I'm kind of biting my tongue on that one right now because if I start talking about it, I'm going to get a little fucking pissed off, which I'm already sort of pissed off, so it wouldn't be good if I continue to have the rage build, because suddenly there's going to be a report coming from somewhere in the frozen tundra of Ohio of a man drunk off of his ass and daring cornstalks to fight him in single combat waving a samurai sword. And the only people that are going to know what's going on are the people that know me personally. Like, yep, there he is. Fuck, we got to go stop him. I don't want to do that tonight. I really don't. I'm trying not to have that happen. I don't want to go out into the night with a weapon and seek out some enemy to create havoc with, even if it is a cornstalk or a tree or some scarecrow that pissed me off or something along those lines. I really don't want to do that right now, Phil. So if I concentrate on that one, right now, I'm just going to get mad, and that's what's going to happen. And I don't want to do that until at least I've gotten out what I need to say. So right now, you're going after a friend of mine. You're going after them in a way to invalidate their experience. You're doing it simply to be the miserable, no-good cur that you are. This worthless, perfectly named obstructive object who does nothing more than subtract from the sum total of human knowledge every time he opens his mouth. And we are tired of enduring you. We are tired of everyone in the universe thinking that atheists and scientists act like you. Act like a self-entitled, self-important, shitty scientist whose own inability to work within the constraints of his profession has left him a permanent nomad and a friendless dickhead. We do not want to endure you anymore. The only reason you're even still relevant is because you've managed to find a little niche of lunatics that are called the MRA and everybody associated with them in Gamergate. You found this little niche of lunatics and angry, tired, ridiculous, completely self-obsessed assholes just like you who are giving you this adoration and this money and everything else that happens here. That's what's going on now, Phil. So you come out and you're attacking a friend of mine. You've already attacked another friend of mine, and I'm not going to talk yet. And then when we call you out on your bullshit, the fact that you don't understand free speech, you don't understand sexual dimorphism, you don't understand human action, you don't understand psychology, you don't understand sociology, you don't even really understand chemistry all that well. That's come from people who are in chemistry. I've had people in your own field say, yeah, Thunderfoot's a pretty shitty chemist too, actually. He gets things wrong in his video. Nobody notices because we just don't have that kind of background. And a good scientist knows when they don't know something. As Socrates put it, I know what I don't know, and that is everything. I don't talk about chemistry all that much because it's not my field. I don't talk about physics, not my science. I don't really talk about mathematics, it's not my field. I don't do that because I respect the people working in those fields. I want them to explain it. They are intimately involved with the details of those fields. They are best suited to talk about those subjects. You, on the other hand, see fit to enter into any subject matter simply because you think scientist for the win. So I can talk about anything, and you don't know anything. That's the worst part about this. You are a clueless, classless hack who is now going after people that I know and who are my friends, and I don't like that, Phil. I don't like that at all. It makes me very angry. And the rage right now is building, and we're now 15 minutes into this. So I think that I've held off on this long enough. Let me put it this way, Phil. Going after the people that I know who are my friends is a big mistake, because unlike other people who you think you can browbeat into submission, you're not going to do that with me, Phil. So let me put it this way. When you sick your army of flying monkey assholes on people, when you basically attack someone because they dared to criticize you, and by the way, this person was a fan of yours. I've seen a lot of their back catalog now, and they were a huge fan of yours. They admired you greatly. You rewarded their admiration and their faith in you by spitting in their face. That's what you did to this person, Phil. And you did it for no goddamn reason. Well, you did it for a reason, but it was for a dumb fucking reason. And it was for just a motherfucker. I hate you, Phil. You don't. I will. God damn it. I fucking son of a bitch. I can't even talk. Okay, no. This is what you do to people. You son of a bitch. This is what you do to people. You try to run them off. You try to intimidate them. That's the work of a coward. And you send your little lackeys to do it, Phil. That is the work of a coward. That is the actions of a coward. That's exactly what you are, Phil Mason. You are a worthless, spineless coward who I wish would just fucking go away. Got it? So, do us all a favor. Shut the fuck up, Phil. Because one of these days, Nemesis will descend, and you are going to get yours. And you know what's going to happen when that happens, Phil? I'm going to laugh. I am going to laugh for a whole year, Phil. I am going to laugh at your demise when that happens. When at last you are brought low and thrown before the dust, and there's nothing left of you except for the husk of a broken, sad, sycophantic, despicable little man. That's when everybody will stand up and cheer. And I hope I'm there to see it, provided I haven't gotten myself killed doing something stupid, which is entirely possible. So fuck you, Phil, you simple-minded prick. And don't ever invalidate people's experiences again, you son of a bitch. Don't send flying monkeys after people because they disagree with you. Don't invalidate their experiences. Stay the fuck out of sciences you don't understand. Keep your mouth shut and go back to some sort of beaker somewhere where I hope you create some chemical that basically sends you to another dimension and we don't have to ever deal with you again. Create that shit from Looney Tunes with the hole. Make that and then fall into it. Then we can finally have some peace and quiet. Then people in the atheist community can actually move forward. Instead of sitting here listening to a sad little man who has done nothing but prove the old adage that you can't fix stupid. So, Phil, fuck you. And if you got a problem, you come to me, you little bastard. You got it? Don't send your army of flying monkeys. You come to me and you talk to me. I don't give a fuck who you are, Phil. I will knock your dick in the dirt if I have to. So don't fuck around with it. You come to me and we'll solve this shit right now. Got it? Fuck you.